Right, let me continue on with a vocal video going from Patsy Ruddenberg, Chapter 5. This is the very final little segment here. It's a vocal release of text. And I did the first couple of exercises. The next exercise is choose a piece of text with high thinking energy, like any restoration passage or one from Oscar Wilde. Mumble the text first and then speak it clearly. Next, speak it too clearly. Over-articulate it. Finally, speak it with life, but with not so much life that the technique of speaking masks the words. And I have a Norton anthology of literature. So let's do something from the Duchess. Oh, let's start off not the Duchess. Let's start off with Christopher Marlowe, Dr. Faust. Faust talking to Mephistopheles. So let's start off by mumbling. Why hell is this, nor am I out of it? Thinkest thou that I, who saw the face of God and tasted the eternal joys of heaven, am not tormented with 10,000 hells and being deprived of everlasting bliss? O Faustus, leave these frivolous demands, which strike a terror to my fainting soul. So that's mumbling. Mumble the text first, and then speaking it over articulately. Why, this is hell, nor am I out of it. Thinkest thou that I, who saw the face of God and tasted the eternal joys of heaven, am not tormented with 10,000 hells in being deprived of everlasting bliss? O Faust, leave these frivolous demands, which strike a terror to my fainting soul. So that's kind of over-articulating it. And then finally speak it with life, but not with so much life that the technique of speaking masks the words. Why, this is hell, nor am I out of it. Thinkest thou that I, who saw the face of God and tasted the eternal joys of heaven, am not tormented with 10,000 hells in being deprived of everlasting bliss? O Faust, leave these frivolous demands, which strike a terror to my fainting soul. So that's sort of working through a text. I don't know if actually I over-articulated enough, but that's the one. The next exercise is take a highly charged emotional text, like one by Marlowe or a later Jacobean writer like John Webster, and overspeak the vowels, forcibly exaggerate them. Now overwork the consonants, then merge both processes, and you'll find the correct balance you need. And this is from the very beginning of the Duchess of Malfi. This is Antonio is getting welcomed from. He's been long in France, and he's a very formal Frenchman in your habit. How did you like the French court? And this is what Antonio says. I admire it. In seeking to reduce both state and people to a fixed order, their judicious king begins at home, quits first his royal palace of flattering sycophants, of dissolute and infamous persons, which he sweetly terms his master's masterpiece, the work of heaven, considering duly that a prince's court is like a common fountain, whence should flow pure silver drops in general, but if chance some cursed example poisoned near the head, death and diseases through the whole land spread. So that's Antonio, I guess, kind of doing the vowels. Now we're going to try and do the consonants. I admire it. In seeking to reduce both state and people to a fixed order, their judicious king begins at home, quits first his royal palace, of flattering sycophants, of dissolute and infamous persons, which he sweetly terms his master's masterpiece, the work of heaven, considering duly that a prince's court is like a common fountain, whence should flow pure silver drops in general, but if chance some cursed example poisoned it near the head, death and diseases through the whole land spread. So that's kind of consonants, and then let's merge the process and try and find a correct balance. How do you like the French court? I admire it. In seeking to reduce both state and people to a fixed order, their judicious king begins at home, quits first his royal palace of flattering sycophants, of dissolute and infamous persons, which he sweetly terms his master's masterpiece, the work of heaven, Considering duly that a prince's court is like a common fountain, whence should flow pure silver drops in general, but if it chance some cursed example poisons it near the head, death and diseases through the whole land spread. So, so that's interesting. I don't know if I quite particularly got the example of that. Doing the vowels and the consonants. I find it kind of hard not to slip into doing consonants and vowels, especially when the text in this case seems very consonant heavy to me. Now take either kind of text and feel how disconnection occurs intellectually or emotionally if you push your voice and rant, or if you embellish the voice and sound too beautiful or sentimental. Then intone and speak the text simply, needing not only every word but every sound. Then intone and speak the text simply. Let's go back to. Oh, I did that. Okay. Well. Okay. Here is the opening of scene 1 with Faust. And so we're going to start off by trying to say it, really push it, really make it beautiful. Settle thy studies, Faustus, and begin to sound the depths of that thou wilt profess, having commenced to be a divine in show, yet level at the end of every art, and live and die in Aristotle's works. Sweet analytics, 'tis thou hast ravished me. Bene durse et finis logices, is to dispute well logic's chiefest end. Afford this art no greater miracle, then read no more. Thou hast sustained the end. A greater subject fitteth Faustus' wit. Okay, so that's me being all dramatic or thing and really just not having anything. So now I'm going to intone and speak the text simply, needing not only every word but every sound. Settle thy studies, Faustus, and begin to sound the depths that thou wilt profess, having commenced to be a divine in show, yet level at the end of every art, and live and die in Aristotle's works. Sweet analytics, 'tis thou hast ravished me. Bene dursete et finis logices, is to dispute well's logic's chiefest end. Afford this art no greater miracle? Then read no more. Thou hast sustained the end. A greater subject fitteth Faustus' wit. All right. So that's the final exercises of chapter 5 of Patty Ruddenberg's The Need for Words. Again, that's kind of slamming. This section's definitely been about kind of, let's ramp up the words, let's go way past what's reasonable, and then when you take it back, what's left, what kind of memories, what kind of things are there, and also when you rant it up so much, how you can kind of lose the meaning of the words, the emotional connection to those words, because very much doing that text, first doing it so dramatic, it's like, well, you're all in the drama, you're all in the sounds, but you're not getting the meaning of the words. And it is important to stay connected with meaning, because the second you lose the meaning, the people listening to you will also lose the meaning and be just distracted by how you're saying something. This is all about communicating, not just sounding cool or awesome or actorly or amazing in your own head, something. So she ends off chapter 5 with, bearing in mind all of these many exercises and their simple skills, we are ready at last to set the voice free among a whole group of further text examples. So I think and that's going to be chapter 6, is working further with texts. And I have not read on, but that is the thing that I will do next, where we seem to be getting a lot of swaths of text, of just kind of it looks like Patsy Rodenberg has gone back to kind of, we're going to get some theory here, her theory, which I found less less interesting um, to me when the more it kind of goes into kind of commentary versus the practicality. So I may be doing quite a bit of reading before I get to chapter 6. She's definitely got a lot of terms like automatopoeia, puns, and then starting with Shakespeare, and stuff like that. Speaking Shakespeare's text, which I'm not that interested in. I mean, I guess I'm interested in the fact that I do read Shakespeare, and who knows, this might be a chapter that'll be really great when I get to Shake Timber. I'll have to make a note that I've got a whole thing here of Patsy Rudenberg kind of working through Shakespeare, and that might be something to think about. Is her going going through text and talking about it. I don't know if that's going to be something that I'm going to want here. Boy, it is again a long thing, and it's a lot of working through Shakespeare, which may not be something that I am particularly that interested in. Man, I'm just going through, we're still, I'm flipping through page after page after page, and it is like a little class O Shakespeare here, which I'm knowing from the other thing. uh so this may be something that is really rich for me when I get to Shake Timber, where I'm like, okay, I want to kind of dive into Shakespeare, and perhaps it'll be a Shakespeare that a text that I can use to kind of encounter Shakespeare on a very much a kind of a language thing, a kind of a nuanced like performing Shakespeare, which is something that I don't have anything about. Wow, this is a giant, like as big as chapter 5 was. Chapter 6 here is as big. And yeah, now we've gone on to John Milton, kind of going through Jacobean drama, Shies and Hunt. Excuse my German. Um, and Pope. Wow. This is Restoration Dialogue. Wow, we're suddenly into just a whole play. It's everything playish, which Oscar Wilde, it may just not be something for me. George Bernard Shaw. I'm just looking through that, and then styles and speaking text, Greek tragedy. We've gone from I'm. It's interesting. We've gone from, okay, this is for the business reader, to very much, okay, you're a theater kid. You are going to be performing plays. Here is going to be some stuff really useful to you if you're going to be performing plays. Samuel Beckett, um, Harold Pinter, working with song lyrics. God damn it. Bad texts and prologues and epilogues. I'm just, okay. And that's the end of the book. Holy crap. Okay. And that is the end of the book. Chapter 6 is like, it is just one big dump of her doing the whole play. Wow. Okay. Well, what I may do is I may just, for a vocal video or even just a little report, is I may read that chapter. I think I'm just going to read it. I will see if there's anything in here that actually applies to me as somebody who's not performing plays, but is somebody who's just trying to learn how to come across better on camera, how to speak better, to improve my vocal instrument. I'll go through this chapter and see if there's anything in that chapter that there is. If there isn't, I'll just come back and say, okay, well, this is what was there, my report on it, my thoughts on it. Perhaps a note with, okay, you know what, I'm going to put a pin in this chapter and go into it more in depth for Shake Timber with Shakespeare, because it does have a very, very large Shakespearean section where I could just kind of pluck this out and use this as subject matter, as a point of view for tackling a Shakespeare play in September. And maybe that would be of some use to myself or to others, probably more to me myself. All right. So we'll see. This might be the end of vocal videos on Patsy Ruddenberg proper, suddenly coming to a crashing halt, or maybe there'll be another couple of videos if I can extract some practical advice out of these, out of chapter 6, which seems to be very, very much about working with plays, and working with further text, but it's working with further text in the sense of actors. In the act of speaking, we all become actors. So throughout this section, I use actor to mean the wide range of speakers who have to do things with words out loud to an assembly of listeners. I don't know if she's slightly stretching there. I'm going to read through this chapter and find out, and I'll report back. All right. I've been Jay. More videos later.